So you filed your utility patent application and you've received a communication from the USPTO, and it's a rejection of your claims, and it's an obviousness rejection. What now? What do you do? Well, for obviousness, there's one way that I always initially look at to see if I can attack the obviousness rejection based on, and that's whether the examiner is properly understanding the technical teaching of the references being cited. So in order to make that determination, as a patent attorney or as an inventor, if you're prosecuting the application pro se on your own without a patent attorney, you have to look very closely at what the examiner is citing and what the examiner is saying that those paragraphs or those sections of the reference are teaching. So if you have a claim for an apparatus comprising limitation A and limitation B, and the examiner says that reference 1 teaches limitation A in paragraph such and such, you have to read that paragraph very carefully, and oftentimes you'll have to read the entire document to understand that paragraph in the proper context. This is something that sometimes happens with patent examiners. Patent examiners are under a lot of stress and they don't have a lot of time. They have such a high volume of cases to process that they don't have, unfortunately, a lot of time sometimes to fully understand the references. They find a reference that looks reasonably related to the claim, and they find language that looks reasonably related to the claim, and so they cite that reference. But when you read it, take time to read it, and you read it more closely, maybe a little bit more carefully and in more detail, and you read it in the context of what's taught around that paragraph that's cited, you may find that technically that paragraph is not teaching the subject matter of your claim limitation. And so in that case, the response to the obviousness rejection would be that reference 1 does not teach what's alleged with respect to the claim, and therefore the obviousness rejection fails, because if that reference doesn't teach the limitation as alleged, at that point it doesn't matter too much what reference 2 teaches. Now, you also have to read reference 2, because it could be that reference 2, maybe reference 2 teaches the subject matter that reference 1 was alleged to teach. In that case, you have to address that. We'll save that for another time. But let's say that reference 2, after you've read it, after you've looked at it, reference 2 doesn't teach the limitation that the examiner is alleging that reference 1 teaches. Then, because reference 2 was used for limitation B, it doesn't really matter. The point is the combination of reference 1 and reference 2 wouldn't arrive at your invention, because the combination would not have both claim limitations A and B. So that obviousness rejection would have to fail. That is a very strong way to overcome a 103 obviousness rejection. And you don't have to go into much more detail other than pointing out to the examiner that that reference doesn't teach what is alleged.